Good morning, all, depending when you're watching this. Good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, I had a voice radio. So today, I'm going to be showing you a really exciting new card, but only in the expanded format. It is Eelektross. Now, Eelektross is going to be coming out in Burning Shadows, and it is a lightning Pokemon, which means you're hitting weakness against Mega Rayquaza and Yveltal, but the weakness to fighting is rubbish because of things like Lycanroc, Zygarde, and because we're talking expanded, Landorus. Now, he does have quite a large retreat cost here, free, but it's not the end of the world, because that, of course, opens you up to using Heavy Ball, and 140 HP is fine for a Stage 2, neither great nor terrible. It's distinctly average. Now, we are looking at the expanded format here. The standard format is currently Primal Clash onwards, that is to say any sets from Primal Clash and later, whereas the expanded format is Black and White onwards, that is to say any sets from Black and White and later. And there is a very good reason for this. The main reason is Electric. Now, Electric is a card that has seen an awful lot of play, first in standard and then when it was rotated, in expanded. It allows you to grab a lightning energy from your discard and attach it to one of your benched Pokemon. That means that getting this energy out is much, much easier. And we've already seen this played in a whole bunch of decks. It's played with Zekrom, it's played with Rayquaza, and so on and so forth. We've seen a whole bunch of options. And it just means that energy isn't a really big deal. So if we're playing Electric anyway, it really isn't a big deal to just play Eelektross on top of it, because we've already got the energy acceleration, and we're already playing the Stage 1. And I'm not going to go into it in great detail in this particular video, but it's nothing to stop you playing stuff like Zekrom and Rayquaza, along with this Eelektross. So, the first attack, lightning and a colourless, 50 damage, and the defending Pokemon cannot retreat the following turn. And this is fine. It's not amazing, but it's okay. Stopping retreat can be quite good. Sticking something like a Hooper in the active, making sure that it can't retreat, and unless they draw something like an Escape Rope or a Switch or an Olympia, then that buys you a turn to set up. And of course, getting all your Electrics out might take you a couple of turns, so sometimes you do need a couple turns to set up. This can be quite nice, and we've seen this in things like Gabite and Beware in the past. It does have its uses. But this is very much an ancillary attack. Stops your opponent relying on Floatstone and free retreaters, which some decks do, and that's awesome. But it's not the main point of the deck, it's not the main point of the card, it's something to keep in mind just in case. The point of the deck is the second attack, Vacuum Volt. For 2 lightning and a colourless energy, 80 damage, you may do an additional 80, but if you do, you've got to do 80 to one of your Pokemon. Alrighty then. Now this opens up so many opportunities. Now first of all, being an expanded, we've got Muscle Band as well as Choice Band, so you can either do 180 to any Pokemon, or 190 but only to an EX or a GX. But of course, given that we're in the expanded format here, we've got Hypnotoxic Laser, which is just an item card that automatically poisons and gives you a 50-50 chance of putting your opponent's active Pokemon to sleep. And then of course you play Burbank City Gym so that poison between turns is 3 damage counters, not 1. And all of a sudden you're right up to 210 damage here very, very quickly. And that's if you're using a Muscle Band. For using a Choice Band against an EX or a GX, you're up to 220 here. This is an awful lot of damage, and it comes in very, very quickly. And let's not forget, of course, that we've also got Professor Kukui here, which then is going to put it up to 240. Ladies and gentlemen, this is ludicrous, and it builds up exceptionally quickly. And let's not forget, you're using a non-EX, non-GX Pokemon. You're only giving up 1 prize, and that really is the point of this deck. You're taking 2 prize turns against EXs or GXs, while only giving up 1 prize with a non-EX, non-GX. Now, there is a slight problem here, and that is the fact that you're rocking with a Stage 2. And because you're evolving around Electric, you do here have to take a couple of turns to set up. Now, the ideal here is very simple. Like any Electric deck, you set up with Electric, you get all your energy on the board, And then you evolve on into Eelektross and attack. And in theory, when your Eelektross goes down, you can evolve up an electric into a new Eelektross. Hopefully you've replaced the electric in the turn or two you were attacking, and you're back. And you've got to remember here that this is a free energy attack. So you don't need 3 Eelektross on the bench. You really need 2 Eelektross. So you can attach twice, and then you just attach from your hand, and there's your free energy. Although if you can get a whole bunch of Eelektross out, this makes you almost end-proof here, because you don't need much in the mid to late game, because you're recovering your energy from the discard. You get KO'd, your energy goes in the discard, and then it just gets reattached using electric. And if you want a turn or two to get set up, you can even use Dynamo here to paralyze your opponent. And you can use Victini to give yourself a 75% rather than a 50% chance of paralysis. So you use Dynamo to paralyze them to buy yourself time in the early game, which a lot of early electric decks did. You use electric to get the energy on, and then you use Eelektross to smash for big damage. Although don't forget, you've got other cards like Zekrom that you could use as alternate attackers if you wish. You could use Rayquaza like I've mentioned, but then again, he gives up 2 prizes. Do you really want to give up 2 prizes? Because that kind of ruins the whole prize trade thing you've got going on here. Now, the thing I haven't mentioned yet is that 80 damage. Because if you want to be hitting 160, plus the extra from Muscle Band and Choice Band and Laser, etc., you've got to be doing 80 damage to one of your bench Pokemon. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we can either block this or we can use it to our advantage. In terms of blocking it, we've got a couple of options. We've got Mr. Mime. Now, we've got both a Fairy and a Psychic Mr. Mime, but you want to use a Psychic Mr. Mime so that if your opponent has a Wobbuffet active to block all abilities of non-Psychic Pokemon, well, Mr. Mime Psychic so he keeps his ability. Or you could even just put a Squirtle on your bench. Squirtle doesn't take bench damage, so you can just whack a Squirtle on your bench, and then anytime you would be doing bench damage, you aim it at the Squirtle, Squirtle blocks the bench damage, and you are good to go. Not sure if you want to put one random Squirtle in your deck, but it would be an option. But that's not what I really want to do in this deck. I want to use this to my advantage. We've got 3 Pokemon that actually quite like taking a bit of damage, as weird as that might sound. Zekrom, Reshiram, and Kyurem. They all have the same outrage attack. And what this allows you to do is 20 damage plus 10 damage for each damage counter already on them. So if you put 80 damage on either of these Pokemon, then you're actually doing 100 damage for just 2 energy. Now, you could play a double colourless energy here for 1 attachment, or you could just use 2 energy. Remember, you're playing Eels to get the damage on there a lot more easily. Now, of course, you could add a Choice Band on here, and you're actually doing 130 damage, and that's the magic number. Because now, you're doing 260 to any Pokemon that's weak to lightning, or water, or fire. And something like a Solgaleo that has 250 HP will still go down because you're doing 260 with your Reshiram. And these are the alternate attackers you can use. Now, as a nice bonus here, if you are trying to buy some time in the early game, trying to get a couple turns to set up, you can leave one of these Pokemon in the active to take a hit or two, and if your opponent doesn't KO them, you can then outrage. But in the mid to late game, what you do is you just attack with Eelektross, do a whole bunch of damage and get some one-hit KOs, while doing damage to your Reshiram, Kyurem and Zekrom, your outrages on the bench. Your opponent finally takes down your Eelektross, and now instead of a free energy attack to get a one-hit KO, you're using 2 energy attacks to get a one-hit KO. I genuinely think this has a lot of potential. In Expanded, this deck has done well in the past, by which I mean Eels, and now we've got big one-hit KOs combined with outrages. It's all single prize Pokemon. I genuinely think there's quite a bit of potential here. I'm not hearing people talk about Eelektross in Expanded, but I think it's worth a test. In Standard, I'm giving Eelektross 2 Wassies. It's too expensive, it's a stage 2, it's too clunky, I really don't like it. But in expanded, I'm giving it between 3 and 4 wassies. We don't give half wassies, that would be barbaric. I think there's an awful lot of potential here, and I think it is absolutely worth having a go with. Use eels, use outrageous. Go nuts. But before we finish, just a very quick plug. Tomorrow, there is going to be a PTCG Radio live stream, 1 p.m. UK time, Sunday the 25th of June. That is 8 a.m. on the East Coast. That is 5 a.m. on the West Coast, but get up early, it will be fun. That is about 2 p.m. in most of Europe. Twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. Come and join in, because it's going to be fun. So there is a comment section. Go nuts. Be nice. Make sure you like this video. Make sure you subscribe to this channel. Follow me on Twitter @TheWassy and follow me on Twitch at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. We've already had one live stream and more are a-coming. The most important thing as always, look after yourselves until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross and you've been watching PTCG Radio.